She just wants to hang out with her girlfriend and fly type areas. Life is not that simple, unfortunately. Hi everyone, my name is Haley. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about how I finished my most recent draft of my book. Today is June 7th. I finished the draft on June 2nd, which is kind of crazy because I started it on like April 20th. Yes, this is the same book that I talked about in the All About My book, which by the way, I realized I forgot to say Tanisa is lesbian, but that's my fact. She's lesbian. She just wants to hang out with her girlfriend and fly type areas. Life is not that simple, unfortunately. It's either my 4th or my 5th draft. This video is going to be about how I finished that draft. I don't really know what to say. It's so funny because I was like, I don't know if it's a film for my writing video this week, and I was like, I literally finished a draft, like maybe talk about that. A lot of people ask like, how did you feel when you finished your first draft? Well, okay, first of all, this is not my first draft. I want to make that very clear. I think a lot of people were congratulating me because they thought this was like the first time I ever finished something. It's not. It's like my 4th time. Honestly, it felt like my 4th time because it was very anticlimactic. I kind of want to reenact how it was. I was laying in my bed. By the way, I wrote the last 4 chapters on my phone because I'm lazy, but I was laying in my bed and I was just like, I'm pretty sure I was watching a YouTube video while I was doing this too, but I was just like, literally, and then I was like, oh my god, I'm on the last sentence. Oh my god, I'm on the last sentence. Huh. End of book 1. Done. And then I went on Twitter and I was like, guys, I finished. It was so anticlimactic because I didn't even realize I was at the end until I was writing the last word. And I was like, oh my god, I don't have anything else to add. I guess this is the end. I had just come up with how I wanted the book to end like the day before. I knew like where it needed to go, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted the moment to look like. I made it though. I did it. Let's start with the negatives. My least favorite things about this draft. Now, my least favorite moments writing this draft. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I was having a really hard time writing this draft. This draft was super last minute because I initially started working on book 2, which was a mistake because I had not even revised the last draft of this book. And so I got about 23,000 words in, and then I was like, I'm gonna revise book 1 because there are issues. Basically, now I can't use those 20,000 words because things have changed a lot. When I decided to revise this, I was like, I don't know, I should revise my last draft because my last draft was 180 something thousand words, and I was like, I don't want to trash all of that because that's a lot of hard work. And it took a lot of months, but I ended up doing a major, almost complete rewrite. I added actually like 2 characters. Well, technically I added like 4 characters. I deleted-ish like 1 character, kind of. They morphed into another character. They're basically the same bitch. So I added new characters, so obviously I had to like switch things around for them, and you know, the relationships that they have to my main characters. The plot is very much the same. I just had to change like the little things, like the journey on how they got to certain plot points and how they got to the end, and then I switched different relationships because I feel like I know my characters a lot more now, so they were doing different things, having different reactions, and I switched out a lot of the romance aspects because I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a best friends to lovers romance in this book, and I felt like in my last draft I didn't really like the pacing of how they were going about, and I wanted them to be best friends to lovers, like childhood best friends to lovers. And in my last draft they weren't really childhood best friends, they were like acquaintances. So I needed to like establish that relationship better in this draft, so I changed that. I love their relationship so much more now. I also have kind of a rival to lovers. Like, they're barely rivals, they're just kind of, they just fight a lot, they have a lot of beef. I love that for them. I love writing them, and I didn't change that much about them. I gave them a lot more banter, so I think that there's a lot, their relationship is just, it's just a lot more solid now. I was having some troubles with this draft because I didn't have a very detailed outline for this draft, and so I didn't think it would be that much of an issue because I thought it was going to be very similar to the last draft, but it ended up being way different. And so when I got to those points where I was like, just rewrite what you put in the last draft, I couldn't do that. So I was like, what do I do? And so I was stuck for a week. I have a thread where I'm writing this book if you want to check it out. It's on my Twitter. But I tweeted it and I was like, girl, I don't know, I'm just struggling so much right now. Like, I don't know why it's so hard to write. But then I got past that, and then for the last 10 chapters what I did is I sat down and I opened my notes app and I wrote down all the things that needed to happen before I reached the end. And the main reason why I did that is because I didn't want to go over my goal for my total word count, because my last draft was way too long. It was 566 pages and it was 180 something thousand words, and I was like, we can't have that again. So I was like, I want to be under 120,000 words. And I ended up with 117,221 words and 392 pages, which is a big improvement from last time. And I do believe that is because I structured the last 10 chapters, because I calculated it, because when I got to page 300 I was at exactly 90,000 words, and I was like, okay, I have 30 more thousand words maximum that I can write. I had 10 chapters and I needed to divide it like by, you know, because I have 2 point of views, and then they all had things they need to do before the end, so I was like trying to calculate like that, and it ended up working out really well. And I thought I was gonna be at like 130,000, but I ended under 120,000, which I'm really grateful for. I think that revisions are gonna be way easier this time, and I'm hoping, praying that I do not have to do a major rewriting again, because girl, I cannot. I said that last time. I don't know. It's just so tiring, you know? Like, you get to the end, and even though I had a really, really fun time writing this draft, it's still, you look back and you're like, do I want to do that again? Because I think the thing is that if I did rewrite it, I wouldn't change any big things. So it's like, why do I need a rewrite? But I think the reason why this rewrite was so much fun is because I added new characters and I got to like spice things up a little bit. Like, that's what made it interesting. And I even tweeted that. I was like, when you have to do rewrites, so you add more characters just to keep things interesting. It wasn't entirely serious. What's the difference between this draft and my last draft is, with my last draft, I just felt like the story was missing a lot of sustenance. I don't know, it's weird because it was a big, long manuscript, but I was like, I feel like it's nothing. Like, I feel like there's nothing happening. Even though with every chapter, these characters were getting thrown around, like there was a lot of stuff happening, but it felt like the story wasn't super deep. I didn't feel like there were enough details. And so for this one, there's a lot more depth. And I think that we can only go up from here. I'm hoping there is not another rewrite, but there could be. I'm just thinking about how the characters that I added just need so much more depth to them. I think that's going to be my biggest point of focus in my revision. So that's another point I wrote down here. How do I see my revisions going? Am I going to do a rewrite? I do really like what I have. And it's kind of hard. I don't know how people like sit here and decide that they really like what they have. I think because a lot of people were saying you should take a break and come back to it with fresh eyes, which is definitely what I plan to do. I tend to do that after I finish drafts. If I didn't do that with my last draft, I would never have had the epiphany that I needed to write this draft. I'm going to take time. And my issue is, what am I going to do with that time? Because I want to start something else, but it's like I don't want to risk losing my connection with these characters in this world. I plan on taking a little break, even though it's been a week and I already started outlining, but well, I started brainstorming. Outlining is a different story. I don't know, because I've never done actual revisions, I feel like, because for my last draft, I went through the whole thing, chapter by chapter, and I edited. I didn't break it down like how a lot of authors say. A lot of authors say that when you go in for revision, you should do one thing at a time. So maybe for your first round of revisions, work on world building, and then for your second round, work on character development, and then for your third round, work on plot. You know, so it's not like super overwhelming. I didn't do that. I really just, because I was getting it ready for beta readers, so I was just trying to get rid of grammatical errors and just the big shit that didn't make sense, but it wasn't really revising, and so I haven't really done a revision. I'm kind of nervous for revisions. I don't know, man. I'm trying to do my revisions in order of best, or in order of worst to best. So I want to start with world building, because I think that will be the worst part for me. Just I don't know. I honestly think that the world building in this draft is way better than in any of my other drafts. But at the same time, I could definitely make it a lot smoother. I have to do plot, characters. I think I'm going to end on characters. And I think I'm going to combine characters and romance. That goes very hand in hand. That's my favorite part of the story, just writing the romance. Girl, if I could just write romance and no plot, I would be solid. So I'm going to end with that, and I think after world building I'm going to do plot. I want to know, I'm like, how do I know when my book is ready? And a lot of authors say, well, first of all, you need to like send it out to other people and hear what they have to say. You know when your book is ready basically when you're at the point where it's like you're not really doing big huge changes when you're editing and revising, but mostly you're just changing like words from like green grass to like lush gray. I don't know. But basically when you're going from doing huge changes to like very, very tiny changes, just kind of nitpicky stuff, that's when you know like your story is pretty solid. I've never gotten to that point yet. I want to get to that point. I tweeted the other day how I've done 5 drafts and I'm exhausted. And then I remembered how some authors like Tomi Adeyemi do 40 drafts before they get to a point where they're like, yeah, this is pretty good. So I could have 35 more drafts to write. Just let that sink in for a second. Yeah, okay, that's kind of a lot. I feel like I just told you a lot of information. But basically, I think that this draft was my favorite draft to write. I really, really love this version. Characters are the most solid they've ever been. Their relationships are the most solid they've ever been. The plot is the most solid. The ending, I think this is the best ending that I've written. Actually, that's not even true. I think my third draft ending, that was pretty, I love that ending. The epilogue for that draft, oh my god, I'm so mad I don't have that to this day because I love that epilogue. Maybe I can use it for something else. This draft is definitely better than my last draft, which kind of sucks because my last draft I spent so much time on it. I definitely think that this draft is better, which is good. Like, we want each draft to be better, right? I do have one concern when I go in and I revise. I have a feeling I'm going to add stuff and then my word count is going to go up, so I have to keep an eye on that. A big issue that I have with this draft is the pacing, and I had the same issue with the last draft because I feel like the inciting incident takes forever to happen, and then I almost feel like it's not really clear because it doesn't lead directly into the main characters like kind of starting on their main plot, if that makes sense, or their main goal, because it kind of takes a little bit for the characters to like figure out what they need to do and then go after that. I always think, I'm like, my book is not action-packed enough, but there is literally something happening in every chapter, but then I'm like, there's not a big huge obvious climax like towards the end, and I feel like that's what I need. But at the same time, I'm like, not every book is like that, so I don't need to make my book like that. But I don't know, I don't know. I'm nervous about beta readers. Probably only going to send it to a few people this time, as I sent it to like 12 people last time. Like, what kind of crack was I on? I didn't even send the whole thing. I sent like the first act. Ooh, I did not divide this draft into acts. Also, the chapters are way shorter. I had a 60-page chapter in my last draft, you guys. I think my longest chapter in this draft is like 20 pages. I tried to keep all of my chapters like 12 pages max. Tanisha be having not as much stuff to say as Kara for whatever reason. I don't know why Kara has so much time on these pages, but I need to change that. That's just not fair. With Kara, it's like I know her story, her path, her care. Like, I know where she needs to end up. I know everything about her. But with Tanisha, she's more of a wild card, and so it's like I get scared and I just want to finish a chapter really quickly so I can get it over with, because I don't want to like second guess myself with everything that I do. But I need to get over that, obviously. That's pretty much it. What was my favorite part about this draft? Writing the new characters. Like I said, love that. But let's talk about some fun stuff. There's one scene in this book that I just decided today that if I had to cut everything in this book but one scene, I would keep this scene. I think it's the 3rd chapter. They're just like at a party, and I just think it establishes their characters and like their relationship to each other so well, and it sets up a feeling of mystery as to like, why is this dude such a little bitch, you know? It's really okay. I'm explaining this really badly, but I want to read a line from that. No, I'll just read a different line. This whole exchange is just really amusing to me. Basically, everyone is like at breakfast. These two characters start fighting, and they're just like having this argument, and everyone's just like, what the fuck? Okay, I'll just read this one line. So this is from a character whose name is Ash. She's probably my favorite character ever to write. She's just so much fun. So she's arguing with someone. I've done nothing but sit here and enjoy this pleasant breakfast, yet I am being attacked. And then like a few lines later, she's just like, I'm not sure why you bother with her. She's cursed. And I love her. I always forget to say this, but if you made it to the end of this video, please leave a flower emoji. I'm pretty sure there are multiple, or you can leave my favorite one, which is the dead rose one. If you want to get on my good side, have a wonderful life. That's it. I'm running out of time, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.